Have you ever noticed how kids will say exactly what's on their mind? They'll look you dead in the eye and say something like, "Your breath smells," or "Why do you look like that?" So imagine me at 7 years old going to sit down in class, and the student next to me says something along the lines of, "Why are you so brown? Are you dirty?" That excitement that I had, that nervousness to start the new year, depleted immediately. And I wish I were making that up, but I'm not. And at 7, I didn't have the words to explain social conditioning, systemic racism, or colonization. I just stood there, stunned, wondering, why would he even ask that? That moment stuck with me, not just because it hurt, but because it revealed something deeper. Children who are completely untouched by the complexity of adult politics are still absorbing around them what they hear and see. They have already absorbed something insidious, something learned. I'm a Black resident of Putnam County, one of the 3.36% in total, and I've experienced racism not as a theory or as a news headline, but as a daily lived experience. Not just in the big things, but in the quiet, persistent moments. Not always in slurs, but more often in silence. It's the teacher who punishes Black students more harshly. A job interview that suddenly goes cold once they see your name. The neighbor who suddenly locks their car once you walk by. Racism in the 21st century isn't always loud and obnoxious. It's evolved. It feeds on silence. It hides behind smiles, behind algorithms, behind policies written in neutral language, still having bias impact. It survives because we allow it to blend in. So where does racism come from today? Well, slavery's over, the Jim Crow laws were removed, and we've had legislation for civil rights in the books for over 50 years. Yet, it's still here, and it's still shaping lives, it's still warping the future, and it still changes how we feel. We know racism today doesn't start with hatred, it starts with absorption. According to research from MIT and developmental psychologists, children aren't born racist, they learn it. From birth, they begin picking up on racial cues from the media, family, and the behavior of trusted adults. As they grow, they absorb society's spoken and unspoken rules about race. Sometimes that begins as early as preschool. Studies have shown that by 3, children begin to show signs of racial preference, especially when their environments don't actively challenge bias. So what happens when those early messages go unchecked? They spread, they harden, and they become microaggressions. Small daily slights that cut deep, like someone saying, "You're so articulate," or "Where are you really from?" or the ever popular, "I don't see color." In Psychology Today, Dr. Gerald Wingsu describes these moments as racial microaggressions. Subtle insults or dismisses, often unintentional, that still reinforce inequality. He calls it death by 1,000 cuts. It's easy to dismiss these as minor, but when you live with them, daily, constantly, they shape how you feel about yourself and how you walk through the world and even how you feel in your own skin. Then there's the bigger picture, the structures, the systems. As Ta-Nehisi Coates outlines in The Case for Reparations, inequality didn't just happen by accident. It was built deliberately. They did this through policies like redlining, exclusion from the GI Bill, discriminatory housing loans, school segregation, and legalized wealth theft. These systems didn't just disadvantage Black communities, they purposely advantaged white ones. That legacy didn't end, it evolved. Today, racism operates through things like disciplinary gaps in school, with Black students being suspended at higher rates for the same behavior as white students, healthcare disparities, with Black women being 3 to 4 times more likely to die during childbirth than other women, and hiring algorithms. Cultured resumes with ethnic names are rejected at higher rates than identical ones with white-sounding names. It also thrives in digital spaces. quietly, and efficiently. As explored in the TED Talk, How We Can Fight Algorithmic Bias by Joy Buolamwini, modern technology isn't neutral. It reflects the values and blind spots of the people who've designed them. Facial recognition softwares often misidentify darker-skinned faces. AI hiring tools replicate existing racial biases. All of this paints a clear picture. Racism didn't disappear. It adapted. And here's the hardest part. It survives not because most people are hateful, but because most people allow it to be silent. Well-meaning people say, "I don't see color." They change the subject when race comes up. They freeze when something biased happens because they don't want to make it worse. But silence is more complicated than that. And when we don't call it out, we let it grow and we ultimately make it worse. And what else? Children notice what we say and what we don't say. They notice who we stand for and who we don't. If we don't teach them to see racism, they won't ever learn how to fight it. They'll learn how to ignore it. They'll learn how to adapt to it. They'll even learn how to benefit from it without ever asking why. What do? We start early. We speak honestly. We challenge bias out loud even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it's coming from family or friends or a beloved teacher. We read the difficult things and we watch the hard things. We talk to people whose lives don't look anything like ours. We interrupt injustice, not just when it affects us, but especially when it doesn't. And we stop thinking of racism as a few bad apples, because this isn't about individual prejudice. It's about systems. It's about patterns. It's about a culture that rewards silence and punishes truth-telling. But here's the good news. Racism is something learned, and what's learned can be unlearned. That means change is possible. It means every conversation, every book, every decision, they all matter. It means we're not helpless, we're responsible. So the next time a child says something harmful, not out of hate, but out of what they've absorbed, pause, take a breath, step into that moment. That moment is a seed, and what we choose to plant in that moment, empathy, awareness, courage, it shapes what grows. Maybe one day the next generation won't ask, "Why are you so brown?" And maybe they'll ask, "Want to share crayons?" And that shift, that transformation, starts with us. Derek Anderson, the Executive Director of Race Matters for Juvenile Justice, says, "Although we're not responsible for history, we're responsible for what happens today and for what happens in the future." Racism impacts all of us, and we all have a role to play in ending it. Thank you.